I think this is the right time for your organization to push forward and to market the Oasis plan, because as I said earlier, and in on several occasions, I boosted the Oasis plan as a prelude towards economic development, towards infrastructural development. I think this is a recipe which is ready for international donors and stakeholders to use in the process of the national reconstruction and the infrastructural development of Gaza. I think this is the time to market the Oasis plan, to be, factored in by those who are going to be involved in the reconstruction of Gaza as a plan that could help with other plans, merging them together and being a major partner in that developmental process. So the Oasis plan now is becoming more and more visible to stakeholders to factor it in any process of development in terms of infrastructure and what have you. So I think this is the opportune moment for your organization to play an imperative role in trying to have a piece of that development.
Obviously, the whole world was extremely happy and relieved when the 20 hostages were relieved, and I think altogether 1,700 Palestinian prisoners. So my first question to you is, do you think this is the beginning of a peace, or do we have to worry, is this just a pause and the fighting will resume? Please tell us what your view is.
First of all, I think, it is a breakthrough after 2 years to have this war stopped. And it seems that President Trump has flexed muscles on Israel to accept the ceasefire. Of course, those who were trying to broker the peace between Israel and Hamas have bore fruition. So from the outset, I would say that this has been a relief, first of all, for the people of Gaza to stop this carnage and the killing and to stop the destruction and flattening of Gaza. So the people in Palestine are relieved from this war, and they believe that, this might start a new era in the Middle East where peace is possible after so many years of conflict and after so many destructions and what have you. Now we have reached a point where the only resort to solving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is through peace negotiations, because both parties have understood the repercussions of such wars, and Israel spared no moment in keep on using military force in succumbing the Palestinian demands for self-determination. Now they realize that military solution is no solution. We need to go back to the table of negotiations and try to flush out first the details of the peace the peace deal of President Trump, and then how can we move forward in achieving a comprehensive peace in the Middle East by the implementation of Palestinian self-determination and the formation of our independent Palestinian state. So this is the beginning and the prelude of a bigger picture in the Middle East, where everybody knows now that the military conflict, in our part of the world, is the essence of insecurity, is the essence of instability in the Middle East region. And to address this question, there must be real concerns by all the parties, by the stakeholders, let alone Israel, should understand that they cannot continue with the occupation. That occupation has to end, and Palestinians should have their inalienable right to self-determination and the formation of their independent Palestinian state on the 1967 borders, as it is legitimized by the international community and by UN resolutions.
Well, I think the plan which was negotiated between the team of President Trump and various Arab governments, Egypt, Qatar, and so forth, it looks very promising. But I think that I personally think, and the Schiller Institute thinks that this is a very precious moment to really cause a fundamental change in the whole dynamic. As you know, and you participated in some of our conferences on the idea of changing the parameters in the entire region, not just Israel, Palestine, but to transform the desert into a green area of forests, of agriculture, by putting the Oasis Plan, which was conceived by my late husband, Lyndon LaRouche, already in 1975, and which we have actualized in the recent period, that this is now the moment to put the Oasis Plan on the agenda. And I personally think that, given the fact that the neighbors of Israel are acutely aware that, something has to be done to cause a steady basis for peace, how do you see the chances that the Gulf Cooperation Council, the OIC, the Arab League, and such organizations would be willing to consider the Oasis Plan at this moment?
I think this is the right time for your organization to push forward and to market the Oasis Plan, because as I said earlier, and in several occasions, I boosted the Oasis Plan as a prelude towards economic development, towards infrastructural development. I think this is a recipe which is ready for international donors and stakeholders to use in the process of the national reconstruction and the infrastructural development of Gaza. I think this is the time to market the Oasis Plan, to be factored in by those who are going to be involved in the reconstruction of Gaza as a plan that could help with other plans, merging them together and being a major partner in that developmental process. So the Oasis Plan now is becoming more and more visible to stakeholders, to factor it in any process of development in terms of infrastructure and what have you. So I think this is the opportune moment for your organization to play an imperative role in trying to have a piece of that development, and by being more active in trying to reach those donor countries that already have vowed basically to put in the reconstruction of Gaza. And this is the ample time given to you to promote that kind of a plan, which has been, around maybe, excuse me if you can tell me, 3 or 4 decades now. So it's not something new. It's something that has been tested and tried and had been successful. So why not now also using the Oasis Plan as part of this redevelopment or the reconstruction of Gaza that has been unfortunately flattened. 80% of Gaza is flattened now. And this is the time where such models of development should be factored in any kind of future plans of reconstruction and development in Gaza.
Well, as you know, the program is supposed to start with a system of canals between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea, and then a canal to the Mediterranean. And that way, basically using desalination of large amounts of ocean water to create a whole new water irrigation system for the entire region, including artificial rivers. And eventually, it is not only supposed to be for the reconstruction of Gaza, but it's a vision whereby the entire region, actually from India to the Mediterranean, from the Caucasus to the Gulf, could be transformed. And, in a certain sense, this region already was the hub of the ancient Silk Road, and in that way connected Asia and Africa and Europe, and it could take that role again. So what is your view on this?
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I think, governments should be involved in this process because it's not something that is a private thing to be done with a company. So I think, this is a long-range project that has been, tested already, and there should be more elaboration on the Oasis plan, and to put it in a way when it is going to be marketed for Gaza as a specimen, that all what you have mentioned now is so important that the benefits won't only go to the Gazans and to the Palestinians as much as the region in itself will be transferred to another level of trying to create a certain kind of communication, let alone the ties in terms of, having trade relations. And that in itself will produce a momentum of regional cooperation that will basically push for regional stability, because this kind of economic development will benefit, the region by itself, and that should be something to be considered, from a macrocosm rather than only a microcosm in terms of, development and what have you. So I totally believe that, the Oasis plan should be considered really seriously now at this time, where regional security will be dependent also on economic stability through a plan that will bring all these stakeholders together in order to form that kind of security and stability in the entire Middle East. As you know, security is not only political. The major trump card here is the economic stability, the economic cooperation that would lead also to political stability in the context that we see if people, both Israelis, Palestinians, and the region in itself now, I think, should be ready for a new dawn in the Middle East that is only based on the synchronization of the political stability, as well to be catalyzed by the economic stability through a plan that is sound economically and that will bring benefits for all the stakeholders in order to entrench stability once and for all in this long conflict of the Middle East that has been going on for the last 10 decades now.
You mentioned that it requires governments to take that decision. We had several conferences on the Oasis Plan. You participated in several of them, and we all concluded, or these conferences always concluded, with the recognition that it required governments to take up this plan. Now, at one of our conferences, there was a Chinese economist, Professor Zhang Weiwei, who said that China has the scientific and technological capability to implement that plan, given the fact that they have a big experience with the, fighting the desert in Xinjiang, and also a region in the northeast of China, of the territory of the size of Germany, actually, which used to be desert and now is, gardens and forestry and agriculture, and the peasants have become wealthy. So now, obviously, President Xi Jinping has already in 2015 announced, when he was in Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, that he would be willing to extend the Belt and Road Initiative to the entire region. Now, President Trump, on the other side, has taken a big pride that he is the one who brought about this peace deal. So why not suggest that when hopefully President Xi Jinping and President Trump meet in South Korea at the upcoming APEC meeting, that if they would join hands, you could really resolve this problem for good, because then all the neighbors would agree. And I think also the population in Israel would see the benefit of having peaceful environments and neighbors who are not hostile, but actually that a friendship could develop. So what do you think about all of this?
Well, I think what you have said is absolutely true. And of course, there is a precedent for the Oasis Plan. And the Chinese could, as part of getting closer now to dialogue with the Americans, I think that will be a very important opportunity to be discussed, in the upcoming meeting in South Korea. And I think, President Trump should basically try to tell Jared Kushner and Witkoff and what have you, those who have been involved in Gaza, and in terms of trying more or less to bring all countries that could help, in the reconstruction of Gaza, especially the Arab world. And that could be, a great opportunity for the President Trump to be, acknowledging the Oasis Plan that had proved to be, successful, and try to implement the Oasis Plan with the other plans, could merge together and work as one entity towards the development of the region and the reconstruction of Gaza. And of course, the Israelis eventually, if they agree to accept peace as the finality of the conflict, then they will be potential partners in facilitating the process of development. So I think in general, the Middle East, the world owes it to the Middle East to be, settled, to be secured, and to be stable economically as well as politically. Now we are living in a very interesting time where the global participation in trying more or less to resurrect the Middle East from conflict to peace is the right time now, where everybody should, synchronize their efforts, put their heads together, and come up not with a magic wand, but with a reality on the ground by trying more or less to see the benefits of the Oasis Plan, let alone the insinuation of Gulf countries and Arab world and Islamic world, let alone the European Union, trying to inject in this not only materially, but also mentally, because, that will bring about peace, and the longevity of peace will be reaped basically by Europe, by the world trade, and what have you.
I think this plan must be considered very rapidly, because I think this present situation is it has an enormous potential, but it can also be wasted. There are many analysts who are actually concerned that a war against Iran would be possible. There is, for example, Alistair Crook, who is a former British diplomat and very knowledgeable about the Middle East. He just thinks that a new attack on Iran would occur or could occur rather sooner than later. I mean, obviously, given the fact that Iran just suspended the collaboration with the International Atomic Energy Agency in reaction to the renewed sanctions. I think this is an incredibly dangerous moment, because if it would come to a new attack on Iran, I think Iran has in the meantime been reinforced by its friendly states in terms of the air defense and so forth. I think that danger of a renewed war against Iran, which could involve the entire region, eventually going completely into a global war, that danger should be a motive to move on the agenda of the Oasis Plan as a peace plan very, very rapidly.
Well, actually, there is a potential of eruption of conflict again between Iran and Israel. But I think President Trump is aware of that, and he knows that everything will be blown into the air if Israel attacks Iran now. And as we know from the press, that President Trump is planning to go to Iran And that trip in itself, is a clear message that there is an open dialogue between, the Americans and the Iranians on the issue of the nuclear weapons, or the installation of nuclear technology in Iran. So that in itself will try to diffuse the tension between Israel and Iran. If President Trump goes there and tries to get guarantees that the Iranian will succumb to the regulations and put, by the Atomic Agency, let alone all the negotiations that took place on the reduction of nuclear development in Iran will come into fruition. I believe that President Trump does not want to solve one problem and let the other problem try to damage, all his strenuous efforts in bringing peace to the Middle East. I think, the question of war is always there, but the potential of making peace is becoming stronger now, especially with Iran, that is considered to be a powerful country in the Middle East, and that has the capability of responding to any kind of aggression by Israel. And this time, I think the Iranians will be more serious in really damaging Israel if the war takes place. But we don't think that the Iranians are interested in attacking Israel. On the contrary, we see that the Israelis have always threatened Iran, and they have always wanted the Americans to be part and parcel of bombing Iran. And that's why President Trump has been very careful and cautious in dealing with the Iranian issue. So if we look into the future, I think Israel will be a loser. If they open another front with Iran, the entire region will be at stake, and that in itself does not really bring peace and stability. Then the interpretation of all this becoming into something called global war is potential. But nobody wants war anymore. Nobody wants war anymore. We need peace and security and stability. And Iran would be accepted, not only in the Arab world and Islamic world, but also by the Europeans and what have you, because Iran is not thinking of attacking Israel. It's the other way around. So I think Trump should be more strict with Israel in not promoting and not motivating the entire world to be on its side in fighting, Iran. And Iran knows the limitation of its nuclear capabilities. And I think there has been an understanding to what extent Iran could develop its nuclear capabilities to use it for peace rather than to use it for war. And so the buck stops in Israel. And as the Americans have great influence, on the Israeli politics, especially President Trump, now, I think it's an opportune moment also to have a peace deal between Israel and Iran.
Well, then there is also the question of the relationship between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Now, after various wars, it would have been completely unthinkable that the relationship between the French and the Germans would ever, develop into a normal relation or even friendship. I think it is important to consider Avrum Berg, who is the former president and speaker of the Knesset. He just gave an interview where he said that there are moments in the history of every country where that country has to confront its own identity. Such a moment was there for Germany in 1945. Such a moment was there for the United States at the end of the Vietnam War. And there is such a moment for Israel today, that he thinks that the Israeli soul is shattered right now. So I think, and he also called for a global Jewish fund for the reconstruction of Gaza, which I think would be a very important element for the implementation of the Oasis Plan. But I think, more fundamentally, can you imagine that a real dialogue between the Palestinian people and the Israeli people could start, whereby one would somehow, put all the crimes which have happened, all the terrible suffering, all the terrible, unbelievable horrors which occurred, if they would be put to the side and each side would take out the best memory of their best traditions, Jewish culture, Palestinian culture, and that a dialogue of civilizations would occur between these two. Do you see such a potential?
It is a potential, but it has to take some time. I think it's very early to talk about healing the wounds, and the Palestinians are still under Israeli occupation, where there is no people-to-people interaction, as you know, for a long period of time. We had it during the Oslo Agreement, but then when Oslo failed, basically, with the Palestinians not achieving their independence in 1999. So we can talk about almost 26 years where, the Oslo Accords has not been implemented. And look, we are at the square one now, where, we are at a zero-sum conflict, and we just had a ceasefire. And that ceasefire, we hope that it will be sustained to a point where, people would heal their wounds and get back to normal life. It will take some time. The psychological impact of trauma cannot be, washed basically with a ceasefire. It has to take its toll. It will take some time. But I believe eventually, if people's belief on both sides that coexistence is inevitable, since we are so close in terms of neighbor, and that kind of a thing won't happen unless occupation is ended. Before occupation, it will be this sense of insecurity by the Palestinians, because occupation will continue ruling over, and that in itself will be an impediment. So we talk about the acceptance of each other and coexistence after the Palestinians have their own independent state, where they have to normalize relationship in terms of trade, in terms of culture, and what have you. This is the ideal type of a situation which will take place, after finalizing this conflict. Without finalizing this conflict, by ending occupation, I don't see any kind of people-to-people interaction for the time being, at least.
Well, that underlines the importance of the approach of the Oasis Plan, which is based on the idea of peace through development. This was actually an idea of Pope Paul VI, which he proposed already in 1967 in his encyclica Populorum Progressio about the development of all people, where the idea was that if you have a long-term development perspective, which improves the life and the hope for the future of coming generations, so that the people who were in misery and exposed to all kinds of radical ideas would see the benefit of becoming a scientist, of becoming an engineer, a teacher, of growing a family. And that way, you change the entire dynamic, which would only occur if you have a benefit for all sides through the Oasis Plan. So I would like to thank you for your time, and I can only tell you that we from the Schiller Institute are totally committed to do everything possible to put the Oasis Plan on the agenda. So thank you very much. You have any final words for us to?
First of all, thank you very much for hosting me, and thank you very much for our cooperation. And this is not the first time that I address the Schiller Institute. It has been a long working relationship. I believed in the Oasis Plan. That's why I was among maybe the only ambassador of Palestine who has been promoting the Oasis Plan. It has been discussed thoroughly through our organizations in Palestine, and I tried very much also to bring this to the government in a way that they might consider this as a potential plan in the future. And I believe that such organization should be applauded for its contribution to world peace, and not only to the region of the Middle East. And I will be a strong supporter, whether I'm an ambassador or I'm on the verge of retiring now. So I would still carry, the message of peace and development of the Oasis Plan. And we will continue cooperating regardless of my official position or not. As a professor, as an influencer, I could continue and carry on in helping you and helping this important institute that has one noble cause of bringing peace and stability not only to geographic locations, but to the entire world. And I commend you for your work, and I wish God to bless you in your noble mission. And we hope that one day we will reap the benefit of the Oasis Plan. And thank you so much for hosting me.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. See you soon.